So what's going on, everyone? It's Dylan and Mike Langsner from Xplosive Entertainment, and you are tuned in to the director's cut for our Super Bowl Showcase. Action!
It's been 1 week since the show, and I'm still like flying high, man. How about you?
It's great. It really feels like we won the Super Bowl.
Well, your team did. Your team did. So, but we always say that the Super Bowl is our showcase. It's our big game, and it was awesome. This was at B'nai Tikva in North Brunswick, ran by Classical Caterers. Evan's been doing the catering there. What did he say? It was 30 years, I think.
Long enough to be a pro.
My God, this guy knows what he's doing. So he showed off some of his new food stations, which was a really cool way to open up the cocktail hour room. The tomahawk station was outrageous. You'll see pictures. I think it was 3 tomahawks like neatly tied together, and then a chef just sitting there carving it for everybody. Like, what a cool station. And another one of his big features, he was doing hot cooked, fresh baked cookies right there on the spot. Did you get to try any?
I tried nothing, but my daughter tried everything, and it was great. But along with the food, we actually had one of our sax players playing an awesome up-tempo, vibey cocktail set, basically, just to the backtrack of popular music.
Yeah, so Glenn was rocking it. Glenn is just so talented, and he got to show off his skills. He got to show off, how a cocktail hour can have that immersive feel. And I like sax. I also like keyboard during cocktail hour, but I like sax. I don't think it's overwhelming. It's not too loud, but it does kind of set the tone. A little bit of a classy, like live feel, different than just background music.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no real replacement for that live energy that comes from a person being there. So that's a really great way to tie it up and really just elevate the experience from the start.
So basically what happened at the showcase, guests walked in the front door, they hit a registration table, and most of the guests went right into this cocktail hour room where the food was. The kids had, basically their own little cocktail hour space in the lobby. And then if guests wanted to really see what we were all about, the main room was set up with all of our games and enhancements.
So now we're going into the main room. The cocktail period is done, and the guests walk in and they're greeted with one of the coolest setups ever.
So you got to set the vision first off. Music is playing. Games are around the perimeter of the room. We had some of our favorite vendors set up in the space. There was a giant video wall that was set up behind the DJ. Then there was an additional video wall panel as the DJ booth itself. And then flanking all of this, if you're following me, to the right and left were 2 additional slices. These slices were, I think, 9 feet tall on either side. And then Connor, our video guy, put all this custom content together, which is the way we would do it at a Lia'sBatMitzvah, where different imagery hit each of the screens at different times, but it all meshed so well together. The video wall was just massive and insane. And then we had lighting and staging. So.
Yeah, lighting and staging that kind of just complemented it. But I just think that it's so fun to get creative with these video wall panels because it's something that families don't see often. And then when you put your custom content behind it, it's a great way to deliver your branding.
You know what's interesting? Now that it's the end of the year, we kind of flash back to the year prior. And one of the hottest enhancements for 2024 was the video wall. Now, it's not every client that has it, as you just pointed out. It's not the most common thing. But for the higher end parties at bigger venues, bigger guest counts, the video wall is super popular. But you see it almost always in that same format of traditional rectangle. And then it's big. So normally the DJ gets set to the right or left of it. But this time at the showcase, we got to split that wall, put the DJ between it. And you actually were able to see the DJ mixing live. And it just was, again, I'll use the word immersive. It was more of an immersive experience. I'm so proud of that. I can't wait to get that out there for the first time this season.
Well, you mentioned something about immersive, and I think one of my favorite stations were all the different photo stations that we had. And let's talk about the locker station, because that one was immersive. It was a traditional photo station, but we laid out some turf, we put together some lockers, we branded it with the teams that were in the Super Bowl, and then we put together basically a stadium look as the backdrop, as the enclosure. And what a cool way to immerse yourself in a branding, in this case, the sports theme.
Yeah, we talk all the time on our Master of Mitzvahs podcast about these immersive photo booths or the 3-wall enclosures, or sometimes people call it the photo box or the photo cube. All these different terms mean the same thing. but it's 3 walls that you walk into, and it's generally very branded on theme with the party. Right. So being that a Super Bowl, why not appropriately have a stadium to your right and left, put realistic lockers behind you, and I think what we came up with was actually a cost-effective means of having an immersive photo booth that doesn't have a lot of waste. Like, when we print these structures, generally, they're one-time uses. Right. So we came up with something that can be repurposed from sports theme to sports theme party, and also resized. It doesn't necessarily have to be the 3-wall. We figured out ways to make it into a 2-wall, 90-degree enclosure. And I loved it with the lockers, the benches, the AstroTurf. Appropriate for all sports. I mean, the way that we set it up, whether it's soccer, football, baseball, basketball, like it just fits the right vibe. Maybe we don't use the turf on one party. We put a wood parquet dance floor down so it looks more basketball-esque, but the elements all tie together.
What I think is really important to note about these photo experiences as they get bigger and badder is that they now become a decor piece to your room. Like, this now becomes something that looks great in your room, on theme, on brand, and then also functions as a photo station.
Yeah, and like all of our other photo booths, they have text message capability and print capabilities, and it's just so personalized and branded. But that was one of 3 stationary photo booths, and we had 2 roaming options as well. That was very masculine and sports themed, but for the girly parties, I want all the bling and the current feel. I love this gold sequin that we had, the gold sequin backdrop with the gold balloons that were wrapped around it. Our friends from KK Balloons and Design set that up. And it's so Instagrammable. Like, that's such a term now. God, I hate that word. I can't believe I used it, but that's what it is. It's very Instagrammable.
Well, it's also just simple. For the families that are looking for simple elegance, there you go. I think it's important to realize that the photo booth itself stays the same. The functionality, the quality stays the same. And then it's just a matter of how you're going to present it. Are you going to use a green screen where you have a bunch of different background choices? Are you going to do a sequin and have that elegance? Or are you going to do something in closure?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. That gave a great alternative to this big 3-wall enclosure. Now there was the smaller, sleeker sequined enclosure. And then you mentioned the green screen, which was our 3rd physical station on site.
Right. So real quick, we also had our ring roamer, the roaming photo station, and then what I think is one of the coolest enhancements out there right now is our social zap photography, where it's using facial recognition to capture the guests at the event and then automatically send them a branded photo every time their face is recognized in the event. It's so fun. It's kind of like having just another great photo option to capture at your event.
And to double it up, all those pictures scroll to that giant video wall that we were just talking about. And if you didn't have a video wall in your party, those pictures will scroll to the TVs. So it all just ties in so well together. So 5 photo stations, 1 event, Super Bowl Sunday. Wow.
Okay, we have to talk about the talk of the town. This was one of the coolest enhancements that we had there, and it was the Blender Bike Smoothie Station. Mike, we do the Blender Bikes for corporate events all the time, but how fun was it to walk in and be greeted by the very first thing, this Blender Bike Station?
And the faster you pedal, the faster the blender spins. We were making non-alcoholic strawberry daiquiris at the showcase. If it's your party, of course, we could spike the drinks if we wanted. But what a fun way to have kids participate at the party, make their own smoothies, and have a braggable moment. Something different. Something that's not been seen at Lia'sBatMitzvah before.
Yeah, and the signage was customized, and the flavors can be geared towards your theming. But I think what my biggest takeaway from that was that everyone who got on the bike had their mom or dad or sister videotape them. Like, that was the cool part, is that it was just so recordable. They wanted to share it with their friends.
Yeah, and like any other party, in this case we had the cups all branded with football logos. Like, make it your brand at your party. Now, this could be something just for cocktail hour, it could be something just for dessert, or it could be available the entire time. But I found even at corporates, the adults love it just as much as the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a great way to do something fun for your drink stations. Now, we had almost, it seemed like wall-to-wall activations. But there was one that stood out, at least for a lot of the younger teens, and that was the boxing game.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. This boxing game was so fun because it gave this rambunctious outlet for all of those crazy kids where all they had to do was punch this, speed bag as hard as they could, and it allowed them to see how they rank in a scoring system. And if you got some pretty rambunctious kids, this is a great way to give them an outlet to fuel that energy towards.
Yeah, and I could see you being, the competitive guy that you are, actually like ranking this like on a leaderboard and having like a cocktail hour leaderboard and then a reception leaderboard and
adults versus kids. I mean, there's so many ways to use it. And I think my favorite part about it is that it's a very small footprint. It allows it to fit in just about any type of venue.
So let's face it, every year Super Bowl Showcase we bring out a lot of games, and we generally bring out large format games, things like the 30-person foosball or the giant LED ping pong table. There's a lot of large format games, but sometimes venues don't have the space, or you have such a guest count that the large things don't fit. Yeah. So this the boxing was a great option because it wasn't large. Let's talk about some of the other items that we had.
Well, I mean, just rapid fire, the sporting activity games were almost all small footprint. We had the mini ping pong table, we had the power pong, 2-on-2. It was basically a electronic beer pong.
We're going to call it water pong for today's sake.
There's no water involved at all, but it's an arcade style game. And then you had the Pac-Man Battle Royale, and you had the basketball game, which always looks good in a room.
Yeah, and that was Basketball Madness. It was our mini version. Still white, sleek, fully brandable, but it wasn't as large as some of the bigger footprint items. Let's not forget we had Digital Connect 4 there as well. We had Strike-A-Light. Strike-A-Light and Whack It Back are the same games. Whack It Back is the same thing. It's like Whack-A-Mole, but using your hands instead of a hammer.
I mean, those type of games are great because it provides quick, fun, and energized competition. And like I was saying earlier, like when you have a rambunctious group, giving them that outlet to really let their energy out, it makes for a great station.
All right, so we just hit on all of the games, but there were two other activities that we had on site that were not games, but they're interactive activities that can be at a party. And let's just hit them up. The heat press station, which was branded as a lids shop, like in the mall. And then the beauty bar. So which one would you like to take?
Well, let's talk about the beauty bar because I think it's really, really special because it, again, is a small footprint that allows for the guests at the event to get face gems, or my 4-year-old daughter still carries around the custom lip balm or lipstick, whatever it was that we had given away. So I think it's just fun because it's a quick and great way to get jazzed up into the event, whether it's with face gems or glitter tattoos or any of that like.
I knew you would talk about the beauty bar. It's a very beauty thing of you.
I think it looked great. I think it was fun. I think we had the right people on it, and I even saw like grandma going up there and doing it, or like a dad was in it as well. It was just fun.
So what I liked about it also was the footprint. Like I think we're changing our pace a little bit because we've done the beauty bar at Super Bowl Showcase in the past, but it's been huge. And I think it's a little overwhelming sometimes. The clients are like, oh my God, it's going to cost $1 million. It's so big. Where am I going to fit it? So we showed off our simplistic beauty bar this time with the custom backdrop that is reusable from event to event. And by doing that, we're able to scale the cost back. Just like I mentioned earlier on something else. Like I think that this is a very realistic station now that should be embraced, especially at the fashion themed parties. There's so many cool things that can be done with it.
I mean, even your nightclub themed celebrations, like there's a whole category of like rave makeup that you can go into with that. I think I'm sensing a theme here, Mike. We used to do the bigger the better, and now we're seeing that our families are asking for a smaller, more manageable design, but with great functionality. And I think all the stations this year were great functionality in a compact footprint.
And the right price. So let's talk about the heat press station now. We're going to use these terms heat press station and lid shop interchangeable. But one of the things that we got into very seriously this past year was making our own apparel. And being able to do that on site in a speedy manner. So we went out, we purchased really high quality industrial heat press machines. And we've gotten an assortment of patches that are in our inventory, but we also have the ability to do custom patches or vinyl prints. And guests at the showcase were able to get a beanie or a snapback baseball style hat and personalize it right then and there, with whatever style patch that they wanted. There were almost 100 different styles to choose from.
Right. And it's great because it's something that happens pretty fast, so it's instant gratification. It's custom to the kid who's doing it, and most importantly, it's something that can be branded towards your event. So if you only had a baseball themed event, we could do just baseball patches on a baseball hat. This is kind of the next evolution of the old school airbrush t-shirt idea.
Yeah, and I could think back to a ski themed party where we did ski hats and scarves that were all personalized. So you're right, it is very much on brand. And I mentioned that it was our lid station where, if you go to most malls, they have a lid store, but it doesn't have to be. It could be Dylan's hat shop, it could be Mike's ski shop. Like, the branding, the signage is all interchangeable. And that's one of my favorite things about this new kiosk that we built is how interchangeable it could be. I mean, we've used the same kiosk for food stations and boba tea stations, but we showed it at the showcase in this heat press setting.
That's right.
All right, so the total showcase was 3 hours long, but at an hour and a half into it is when our performance began. And that's like my highlight. That's my favorite part. And we have all these games, all these fun features for guests to enjoy, but the whole purpose behind the showcase is really to show off our talent, show off what separates us from our competitors. I mean, the truth is anybody could buy a ping pong table or a foosball table, but we say this all the time, not all companies play on the same level, and it has to do with the talent. And Dylan, I really wanted you to talk about this in length because you really put the program together of which of our MCs are going to perform in what order and how that all tied in with the enhancements. So let's talk about what happened right at 1:30 at the showcase.
So at 1:30, everyone was welcomed into the room, whether they were at the cocktail space, out in the lobby, or already there. We did a small little introduction. We played a quick Kahoot game all about, Xplosive, just getting to know who we are as opposed to doing a whole background presentation. And then the performance started. So the goal of the performance is to show off our MCs, to showcase some cool and dynamic enhancements that could be on the dance floor during your celebration. But most importantly, just paint a picture of what a bar or a bat mitzvah might be like. A 4-hour celebration squeezed into 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm going to interrupt for a second. We had a total of 10 different MCs performing. Our goal was to show off the depth and the diversity of our team and the abilities. We're not all clones of each other, and that's something that we are very proud of. We want our MCs to have a different look, a different style, different personality, different energy level. And, Jamie and I led off the Kahoot game that you mentioned, the game show that we're using the phones to answer. And not many companies have a female MC. And at that, one who's as vivacious, as Jamie.
Right.
So, that's kind of where we started. But, this mock mitzvah, that was kicked off with MC Mike P., one of our veterans.
Yeah, so I think what's special about this is that it's relatively a room full of strangers, but we pick a guest, a kid whose bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah is coming up, and we make them the star of the show. We make them the mitzvah guest of honor for the day, and we have to celebrate with a bunch of strangers to celebrate this person who is obviously new to them.
So what we did is we put together Olivia's bat mitzvah, and she was a rock star, by the way. So take us through the run of Olivia's pseudo party here.
Right. So we started off with a grand entrance, as most events would. You come out of cocktail hour and you have a grand entrance into the room. And so the grand entrance was featured, or the feature was Olivia, but it was accented by our mazel tov and our bottle signs. It's basically a take on what you'd see in a nightclub. And I think that it raises the energy of an otherwise fun and exciting moment anyway.
It's really a VIP entrance. And, Dylan, I feel like 50% of the clients say, what can I do to make my entrance different? And this is just something very subtle and very simple, but it's high impact. The dancers holding up these strobe lights, signs. In this case, it said Mazel Tov, but they could be custom printed to say, Olivia or Olivia's bat mitzvah or whatever the theme is. Live it up. There's so many ways to personalize it, and that is a killer grand entrance. Yep. And as you alluded to, to do it on a Sunday with strangers at a showcase is even more fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's wild seeing the dynamics. So what happened next?
So we had our grand entrance, and Mike P led a little bit of a dance set from there, and we passed the microphone over to Elton, and Elton gave a little bit of a dance set as well. And the goal was to show that after your entrance, you're probably going to want to keep that energy lively. And so, what better way to do it than to bring in another MC to do his thing?
And Elton chose one of his favorite songs to perform to, which was Fireball, Pitbull, and we got to show off our spark machines, the cold spark fountains that are, such a popular enhancement, and the impact is just outrageous. I got to see it. I mean, I was standing back behind the stage, and when Justin hit go on the sparks and they flew up, I mean, the reaction from the crowd, it was like a 4th of July fireworks show.
Right. It makes for a great photo opportunity, and I think that it raises the energy of that specific moment. So Elton did his thing, it was great, and then we moved into our Hora. And we had Jay Burke come in, and what's always amazes me is that we can put together this mock mitzvah performance for Olivia to celebrate Olivia's bat mitzvah with a bunch of strangers and have them do a true Hora. We had circles, people, random people holding each other's hands to go into a full Hora and lift Olivia up in our LED Hora chair. I mean, she's gonna remember that.
She is. In fact, I've gotten to know Olivia's mom through the showcase attendance, and I was sending her pictures of Olivia in the chair. Her hands are up. She's smiling. I mean, she was so happy. I can't wait to see her actually at her own bat mitzvah day, because the way she felt at this showcase was electric. So I could only imagine her the day of her party.
Yeah, I think I mentioned right after Jay was done that if you can do it with a bunch of strangers, imagine what it'll feel like when you have all of your loved ones there.
So the typical flow of a party is grand entrance, dance set, then Hora often will take place at that time. Sometimes we sit first for bread, wine, toast, candle lighting, but we get back up and do the Hora, and then we're going to dance straight through until the caterer tells us it's time to eat. So that's what happened next.
Yeah, so then we had a bunch of our MCs come through. We had Samaj, I believe, was next, and what Samaj did was he actually took it back. He threw it together some fun, what would be considered adult music, but still rocked a great dance set. From there, we went into Torre, and Torre, just was lively and provided some great kid music. I think he did Fiend for one of it. So, that dichotomy of how do we balance adult and kid music, it was showed in just a small snippet.
That was a brilliant song choice to show how we change up the different genres, and it flows. I mean, it flows naturally at a party, it flowed naturally at the showcase. Torre is one of our new MCs, and he's not new in the industry, but we're so happy to have him now on our team and be able to showcase him, and he crushed it. His performance was great. And speaking of new MCs, new on our scene as well was Antonio, who came in to follow, and his introduction is just he's just a special dude, man. He's got skills that you don't find often.
Right. I mean, he's an acrobat by trade, it seems. Like, he's a Brooklyn Nets dancer, and the way that he introduced himself to the crowd was he did a front flip over a kid.
Yeah. I'd like to see you try, because I know I can't.
No, we're not going to do that. But that's a great way to show that there are different ways to approach a celebration. In this case, it was a fun acrobatic move. In other ways, it could be just the way that they narrate. So it showed all the different levels and depth to our MC team. And then from there, we closed the show with another veteran, Nick Pooch.
Yeah.
And in his set, we killed all of the lights, including the video, while everything was off, and we went into our blacklight invasion, which kind of simulates what would happen towards the end of a celebration, maybe after dessert, to re-liven the crowd up. And all the lights come out, all the lights are turned off, the white gloves and the neon things, neon props are given out, and then these black lights turn on, and everything glows, and it re-energizes in a way that it's hard to duplicate.
Yeah, so, I mean, looking at that, you used the right dichotomy. What a great word. Like, the dichotomy of our team, from the veterans like Mike P. and Jay Berkovitz, who've been doing this 20 years plus, each of them, and then some of the younger team that still are just outrageous. The whole goal of the showcase is to show off the variety of the team and how you could choose the right flavor for your party. And there is no right or wrong. And we're very conscious of that. We're not offended if you choose the young guy, or we're not offended if you only choose the veteran guy. Like, we want you to choose the personality, the style. And I keep saying guy, but I got to throw it back to Jamie too. Like, if you want that female vibe, like that's what I think makes Xplosive different and unique and stand out from the bunch.
Yep, it's not one size fits all. Your celebration should be unique, and it requires a unique approach, and maybe that's with the MC. So the Blacklight show went off without a hitch. We brought everyone back together, Olivia on stage with all of our MCs, and we brought back a fan favorite, which was the CO2 gun.
Absolutely. So now I want to set the tone one more time, and as Connor's going to edit this video, I think he's going to throw some of these clips in here, but we had a massive stage in front of this video wall. We talked about the 3-piece video wall or 4-piece video wall, but then there was this massive stage which was 8 platforms. It was a total of 16 feet wide, 8 feet deep, and it was 2-tiered. And I mean, it was large enough that we had 20, 30 people standing on at any given point. Then we had 6 moving headlights as part of our setup that were built into the video wall setup. They were just tied in, and they looked like they belonged, and the lighting there was awesome. B'nai Tikva is one of the few venues that allows us to still use a smoke machine, and that does enhance the beams of the lights that you see, so that was really cool. And flanking at the very top of the setup was the black lights that we just spoke about.
It was a great way to tie it all together with some fun enhancements. And I love the way that we kind of closed the show, which was every MC got to celebrate with Olivia one more time on stage in front of her new family, this room of strangers, her new family. And I think that everyone left knowing that it was something special, and they got to experience firsthand. They got to test drive explosive entertainment.
So to tie this whole video all up, what we try to do in our director's cuts is relive some of our favorite moments. We're reliving the Super Bowl Showcase, the 2025 Super Bowl Showcase that just happened at B'nai Tikva 1 week ago in North Brunswick. It's literally one of my favorite days of the year. I'm glad we get to start the year this way. I couldn't be more proud of the team. I think I said it in our closing that it takes a village to put this type of showcase together, from our tech team to the roadies that set it up, through the photo booth attendants. We just hope that you enjoy this video, that you enjoy the footage, we enjoy all of the pictures that we captured, and if you have questions, hit us up.
That's right. So we have awesome resources available to you. Our Mastering Mitzvahs podcast, all about tips, tricks, and trends for an amazing bar bat mitzvah. Check us out, xeevents.com or at xeevents on Instagram and Facebook and all the socials. And we can't wait to celebrate with you in the future. That's Mike Langsner. I'm Dylan Weisman. Until we see you next time, peace, love, and mazel tov from our family to yours.